I was nervous at first, and then last year when I was there, I got some more confidence throwing with those guys, and so this year, I got a ton of confidence going in there.
What kind of honor is it to be invited to something like this?
It's a complete honor just to throw with the best of the best. It's the best quarterbacks around the country, as well as Peyton and Eli are there throwing the ball. And so it's awesome to see where you're headed and, competing against guys that you won't get to play in the season, but are pretty good quarterbacks.
What are you specifically looking to improve on this year?
I'm going to pick Peyton and Eli's brain for sure. Last year, it's kind of tailored more for seniors, which I'm going to be a senior this year, which is going to be great. So I can kind of ask them more about the process and your senior year and stuff like that, more leadership stuff. Obviously, you can always continue to improve, especially in your leadership role. And so I think that's going to be one of my big emphasis this year.
How does it work out there? Do you help with the younger kids? Are you kind of like a camp counselor? How does it work?
That's exactly it. So I'm going to have my own Wolfpack team, and then so we have a 7-on-7 team, and then we break it up into position, kind of quarterback, receiver, and you teach pocket movement, you teach rollout passes, you teach 3-step, 5-step. So there's about 1,800 to 2,000 kids out there, and they all stay in the dorms, and so you kind of get close to your team, and everyone's excited. Who's my quarterback? Who's my quarterback? And then on Saturday, we all compete. We try to hit these golf carts that drive, and last year I ended up coming in third, which was a pretty good honor for me in 30 quarterbacks.
You mentioned Eli and Peyton like they're your buddies now. Are you kind of at that level now that this is your third year?
I don't know about that. I'm sure they don't know exactly who I am, but they know that I've been there for 3 years. And a lot of times we have the Polian connection. So, I remember last year I was getting some Gatorade, and they're like, oh, how's Coach Polian, and how's his dad doing? And I was talking with Peyton, and I was like, oh, it was kind of a shock for me, just to kind of stand out. It gives me something to stand out and kind of go up to him. That's a good icebreaker. I know a lot of guys get nervous, so I got a good icebreaker, and Polian's dad going up there and kind of just talking about it.
And what have you been working on this summer mostly?
My motto every year is bigger, faster, stronger. And, like I said, just being healthy is one big part of my game that I need to improve on, obviously. And I've had some unfortunate situations, but this year I'm feeling great about it, and it's my last year. Can't miss any games.
Have you been working with the guys in a lot of 7-on-7 type things?
Yeah, so we've been out there. The team looks great right now. We're doing a good job coming together. We're out there at 8 o'clock at night, and our offense has been doing a good job. Defense is doing a really good job, and so we've been getting some good competition out there and getting better every day.
What's your favorite thing about the Manning camp, having been there a few times?
I think it's just being with all the college quarterbacks. I don't get the time to talk with all of them, and just kind of, hey, what do you do here? How do you watch film? And when you're playing these guys, what do you do? And so it's just a good way to pick someone else's brain. You don't always get to pick the masterminds like Eli and Peyton, but you can ask guys who are playing in the SEC or playing in the Pac-12, hey, how do you do things over there? What do you recommend for me to do? And, they ask me pistol stuff, which is kind of an honor. How do you guys run the zone read? How do you do certain things on offense? And so we kind of bounce off each other, and it's all fun and competition. It's no rivalries there.
I think when Colin went prior to his senior year, he really started getting some, draft buzz, and I think there are pro scouts and pro people out there. I mean, how much does this help you as you prepare for the next level?
It's all about P&R, personal relations, and being a business major. That's what I learned, and so every time I go down there, I try and talk to everyone I can, no matter if they're a 1AA coach or a Division 1A coach, or it doesn't matter. You can want to pick everyone's mind. That's my biggest emphasis, is picking minds. But honestly, there's a lot of knowledge down there, and you kind of sit back in the room and you're just thinking, wow, there's a lot of knowledge in this room. How much can I soak up in the 4 days that I'm there?
What are your expectations of your team this year?
Obviously, we got to be better. 4-8 was a rough season for us. I think we came together really close as a team. Our camaraderie is great. We've been going up to Tahoe playing beach volleyball as a team, and some stuff we didn't do last year. I feel a lot closer with the team. In terms of my leadership role, I feel like everyone looks up to me in certain situations, and so my expectations are great ones, especially being a senior year. I know a lot of seniors are selling out in every workout, and we want it to be the best year possible.
You think the Mountain West is winnable this year?
It's definitely winnable. We got some good talent coming back, 18 or 19 returning starters, so we got some experience, which is obviously a good thing for us. And there's no more excuses, and it's almost here, time to play some ball.
Being named to the Maxwell watch list for the second straight year, just what does that mean to you?
It means a lot, just looking at some of the names on the list, it's like, wow, some of these guys have had some great careers in college, and, it's quite the honor. I just got to stay healthy, like I said, and hopefully, continue to compete and win some ball games as a team, and hopefully I'll be right there in the end.
The new turf going on over the practice field, how needed was that?
It's always great to get new turf, no matter how the old one was. It always feels better on the feet. I haven't had the privilege to step on it yet, but it looks good going in, and so we're really excited about getting out there and practicing on some new turf.
How worn down was the old one? I mean, I heard did it hurt a lot when you went down? Did you tell the difference?
I didn't fall as much because I had the gold jersey, so you might have to ask that question to somebody else.
Could you tell it was time, though, to get a new one? I mean, do you think that was something that you really needed?
It was much needed. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get a new AstroTurf, it doesn't really matter how bad the old one is, but a new one is great, especially when we got the new one here. Guys could tell the difference. So it doesn't really matter. It's going to feel better on the feet with new turf, and a lot of guys are excited about it.